the Wolves flipped the script in game one. Jamal Murray struggles, but he's not the only one. I'll tell you why the Nuggets lost game one here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us on this special bonus episode after game one of the Western Conference semifinals of the Nuggets versus the Timberwolves. We'll get into why the Nuggets lost game one, 106-99. We'll get into who's exactly to blame, what the adjustments need to be for game two. All that and more on tonight's show. Glad to have you with us. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I just got back from Ball Arena where I watched Denver Nuggets fall 106-99. By the way, I appreciate you guys joining us on all platforms, whether on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or especially on youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets. Best way to support the show. Lots of folks hanging out with us here on a Saturday night. Appreciate you guys being with us at 11 o'clock here. Thank God for early games. Thank God. I get to actually not feel like death tomorrow. So I'm excited about that. Unfortunately, the Nuggets won't feel quite so good because they did fall to the Minnesota Timberwolves 106-99 in game one of the series as Anthony Edwards absolutely just goes ballistic. Just crazy ballistic here in game one. Ant was superb. 43 points on 17 of 29 shooting. 7 boards, 3 assists, a +10. Mike Conley chipped in 14 points, 10 dimes, and was a +20 in this contest. They also got 20 points from Karl Anthony Towns. And by the way, Rudy Gobert had 6 points, but 4 of them came in the last 2 minutes as the Wolves out-clutched Denver. So my series pick for Nuggets in 6, I don't think it's dead, but it's pretty dead. And a lot of it was like, oh, the Nuggets will out-clutch them twice because that's what they've done, and I must surrender to the clutch gods. If you keep leaving these games up to the clutchness, guess what? It's going to bite you sometimes, and it bit the Nuggets in game one. Jokic, we'll talk a lot about Jokic in this one, and I'll tell you why here in a second. Jokic, 32 points, 8 boards, 9 assists. Woohoo! How about 11 of 25 from the field and 7 turnovers and a -12? Jamal Murray, 6 of 14 from the floor, scoreless in the first half, 17 points in the second half, 4 assists, and a -22. Aaron Gordon, -23 and only 9 points. MPJ, the only Nugget who continues to have a good postseason, 20 points in this one on 6 of 13 shooting. Even he was not over 50% from the field. Reggie Jackson was phenomenal in the first half and did nothing in the second half. Christian Brown, good minutes from him, 7 points and a +4 for Christian Brown. I mentioned that in the series preview that he was going to be good in the series, and guess what? He was. All right. If you want conversation about Jamal Murray, there's about a billion places you can go because everybody's going to talk about Jamal. I think it's a little weird. And the reason I think it's a little weird is that Jamal was not loud bad in this game. He was quiet bad. And if you go on defense, I went back in the press room and I watched all of these possessions where Ant and Conley scored. And guess what, guys? Jamal was part of it. I'm not denying Jamal was part of it. But there are so many sequences where you cannot reasonably expect Jamal Murray to be the one containing the ball in these sequences, and yet he was called upon routinely, both because of scheme assignments, because of miscommunication, and oftentimes just flat out bad stuff. I am not going to argue, as I often have to do when I do this. It is not that I am saying Jamal played well. Jamal played badly. It is not that I'm saying that Jamal did not contribute to this loss. He absolutely did. What I am saying is that the idea that this game is entirely on Jamal Murray and it all comes down to Murray and we got to focus on Murray and Murray is wrong. The Nuggets could have won this game in a number of ways. I will also say that had it not been for the Reggie Jackson-led burst in the second quarter in the stagger minutes, which erased an 18-4 deficit, this thing is not a contest, guys. Like, the Wolves whipped Denver, especially when you look and you see that Aaron Gordon got outscored by 23 points when he was on the floor tonight. That is an excellent sign that like Denver was not going to win this game. And had they won it, they honestly wouldn't have deserved to, because the starters, which is the entire structure of the Denver Nuggets team, got absolutely obliterated. They were only in this game because of the bench run that happened within the end of the first quarter and the start of the second quarter. And then the starters did enough to be able to get a lead at halftime. And then the Wolves came out and did what they do. This is the best third quarter team in the league. Wolves punched Denver in the mouth right out the gate. Karl-Anthony Towns was phenomenal in that quarter until he got in foul trouble. Like, he was hitting big shots, posting up, hitting threes, doing all sorts of stuff. And then the Wolves just were able to maintain and then get a lead, hold a lead, and then hold off Denver in the clutch, thanks to Anthony Edwards and the lack of execution by Denver. Was the two-man game missing? Yes, absolutely. Did Jamal shoot poorly? Yes, absolutely. I really got to stress this, though, that the defensive problems were so much greater. And we'll get into a lot of those reasons why in the show. I will start here. One of the things that the Wolves did was they overloaded one side of the floor with pick and roll action. So you've got three guys on one side. You got two guys on one side, high pick and roll, and then one guy over in the corner. And what wound up happening was Jaden McDaniels was the lone strong side player oftentimes, or weak side sometimes when they reversed it. One player on that side of the floor with MPJ guarding him. And they put MPJ in the position of, are you going to leave Jaden McDaniels alone, or are you going to go tag the roller? And MPJ routinely selected, in my opinion, probably because this was the game plan, to stay home on Jaden McDaniels. Anthony Edwards cut off of Jamal Murray, where Jamal Murray was trying to deny him the ball, and he cuts backdoor. There is nothing Jamal Murray is going to be able to do there. Jamal Murray can't recover to make a chase down block on Anthony Edwards if his calves were made of cybernetic material. There were sequences where they put them in pick and roll actions, and the same thing happened. Again, I'm not even blaming Mike. I think this was a strategic letdown by the Nuggets to anticipate this action and not have MPJ commit fully to tag the roll so that Jamal doesn't have to make. There was one sequence where Jamal had to tag a rolling Rudy Gobert and then recover up top, and that's what got him burned. Asking a guy on a bad calf to make that kind of rotation when he's not exactly an elite defender anyway, and he's undersized, is not reasonable. So yeah, he gets blown by there because MPJ needs to be the one tagging down low. There needed to be way better help on the weak side defensively in the second half of this game. Nuggets defense in the first half was phenomenal, and that showed with the Wolves only scoring 46. They couldn't score in the first half. They only scored 40. So this is it was a stark contrast between these two halves. 40-46, and then in the second half, the Wolves score 66, and that's how they're able to get there. Like, that's what this comes down to. Yeah. So really what we're talking about here is Malone singled this out in his postgame presser. He was livid. He didn't care about the start, and he should have. The Nuggets can't afford to keep getting off to these kind of starts where they go down 18-4 with the starters. That's embarrassing. Like, they just got to be better. But Malone was more mad because they shot 71% in the second half. They had a 160 offensive rating in the second half, 165 when KCP was on the floor in the second half. That is catastrophic. I went back and I watched all these possessions, okay? KCP got beat flat up by Anthony Edwards. Posted him up, out-muscled him, outworked him, beat him. Mike Conley got him a couple of times. Like, this team is a way better screening team than the Los Angeles Lakers. KCP's not able to just get around screens like he did versus Anthony Davis's weak screens. KCP also got killed by Ant in one-on-one coverage. Aaron Gordon, too slow. Like we talked about this on the preview, where I said there isn't a good matchup here. I said I think Christian Braun plays because I think he'll do pretty well. Guess what? He did really well. He probably plays a little bit more. But the other culprit in all of this is Nikola Jokic. I got to stress this. Jokic's first half defense was terrific. It's some of the best defense he has played in weeks. He was terrific. Making reads, making rotations, helping down low, extra effort, all of these types of things. He was great. Second half, all that changed. He was non-committal at the point of attack, which meant that the Wolves were able. There was a sequence where they doubled. Everyone's like, why aren't you doubling Ant? They doubled him on one possession playing with Michael Porter Jr. He kicks to Mike Conley at the top. They immediately run pick and roll. Joker plays back and lets Mike Conley walk into a three. He just he doesn't even play like deep back. He's not even like protecting. He's just like standing there watching Mike Conley shoot a three. Like, I got to stress this. The defense from Nikola Jokic in the second half was abysmal. Execution, effort, the whole 9 yards. And that's one thing if you're able to score efficiently. But guess what? Jokic shot 11, 20, 25 from the field. And I'll say this. The Nuggets scored with, including passes, 1.2 points in the post in this game. Okay? So they'll probably go back to that more in the second in game 2. They'll try and get Rudy Gobert in foul trouble. That's going to be a big adjustment. We'll talk about that up here later in the show. But I really got to stress this, that like, again, Murray was bad and Murray is hurt, and that compromises the Nuggets' ability to win this game. They could have won this game with a better performance from a coaching perspective and from Nikola Jokic. That doesn't mean that Jamal's not responsible for the loss. They're all responsible for the loss. Like, everybody's responsible for the loss. That's how this goes. It's a team sport. But there were certain things that the Nuggets did not make the right adjustments to. And, there's Hurricane was kind of asking about whether is this a Malone loss. For all the conversation about the defense, they allowed 106 points. Feels like you can reasonably ask for more than 106 for the Nuggets. Here's the problem with that Hurricane. Here's the issue. Is that in the first half, they only gave up 46 and they only gave up like a 105 offensive rating. Okay. They won that. Like, they were in a position to win that stretch. They were fine there. The second half is where they got killed. That's where they lost this game. They lost it. In my opinion, they lost it in the first 8 minutes of the game, and they lost it in the final 5 minutes of the game. And those things are very much, I think, are very much tied to the defense, because this is part of it too. If you notice in the middle part of this game where the Nuggets like got back into the game and started scoring, so much of it was because their defense was playing better, so they were getting stops, so they were pushing the ball, so they were getting the Wolves out of the matchups that they want to have. Right? We talked about that, about how you want to get the Wolves in cross matches, and they did a lot of things there in order to create mayhem and create advantages, and that's where they were able to score. You don't want to walk the ball up versus this Wolves team. If you're walking the ball up because they scored and you're just like walking into their set defense, you're not going to win those battles. Their defense is too good. That's how good the defense is. When I said that the Wolves defense is the best unit on the floor, I meant it. And you saw that, I think, in game 1. So for me, I'm not saying, I think the difference here is if they had played better offense, could they have won this game? Yes. But that's not why they lost this game. Like, they could have won it with better offense, but they lost it because of the defense, I think is the best way to put it. On the other side, I want to talk about some adjustments that we'll see going forward. I want to talk a little bit more about culpability about the offense and what needs to change for Denver moving forward. We'll do that up next here on Locked On Nuggets. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available for U.S. customers. We'll be right back. Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us, making us part of your day. Robert Arte says, to be fair, Jamal also needs to find a way to muster up a C game or our chances to win go way down. Okay. If Jamal plays a C game, that improves your chances. You know he's got a bad calf. Like, you know this. You know that he has a bad calf facing the best defense in the NBA. Okay? Again, I am not saying that it's not Jamal's fault or that he played well. And I'm not even saying, like, that's the best that he can do. What I am going to say is Nikola Jokic does not have a strained calf. And Nikola Jokic has a matchup that everyone has said, you know, I have 47, brother. And he was 11 of 25. Like, Ant was the best player on the floor tonight. If Jokic is not the best player on the floor, the Nuggets are going to lose. If Nikola Jokic loses his minutes, the Nuggets are probably going to lose. That's the way this team is built. Like, I'm sorry. That's just the way this team was built. Okay? The team was not built for Jamal Murray to be the best player on the floor. The team was not built for Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic to be equal levels. That is not how it was built. Yes, the two-man game is important, for sure, but the two-man game is not just like Jokic screens and Jamal scores. That's not a thing. Again, I want to stress this, that I'm not saying that Jamal played well. It's that when I went back and I watched a lot of the clips, there was an alarming number of things the Nuggets did not do well, offensively or defensively, that did not involve Jamal. And that reducing it to that element, which is what I saw a lot of, I think is a mistake. Hurricane says, everyone not named Reggie needs to be better. Justin Holiday was good. Christian Brown was good. The bench guys were really good. MPJ early on in this game was trying to it was weird. He hit some shots and then he tried to isolate versus Rudy Gobert a couple of times and it was a disaster. But then MPJ kind of figured out as he went. They honestly need to run a lot more stuff for MPJ. They need to get him involved in DHO actions. I will check what the numbers are going to say on the matchup data tomorrow, and I'll have those for you on World's Finest. But I actually did genuinely like MPJ on Anthony Edwards. There was a couple of switches earlier where that happened, and it wasn't that bad. Again, not saying that they need to do that full time or that's the answer. I'm saying that I called that out as I actually don't think that's a bad idea. And I don't think it was. Most of Ant's points came against KCP and Aaron Gordon. But again, if you go back and you watch, you will notice, that's what happened. Ant got Christian Brown once, because this is the other problem I do think with Christian Brown, and he'll play more. Christian's really good in the ISO stuff. So KCP and Aaron got killed in the ISO stuff, one-on-one off switches, or just straight up. Christian's really good in those versus Ant, but he struggles with screen navigation and understanding pick and roll. So Ant got downhill on him one time and he just wasn't able to recover, and Ant scores the bucket again because Jokic doesn't play high enough in the level. So there's a lot of things here where Christian can help, but they're going to need a lot more. And look, Ant was just phenomenal tonight. He was stone cold killer. Absolutely incredible. I called him Minnesota Ice in my column for Action Network because he was just cold-blooded. He was awesome the whole game. I think there's some questions about why didn't the Nuggets involve Mike Conley and pick and roll more. They're able to hide Mike a little bit easier, right? And you're going to need the Nuggets are going to need to change up, I think, quite a bit in terms of who's running pick and roll. They need to invert a lot of stuff, and they have the flexibility to do that. I just don't think that this game is let's beat them to death. This series is going to be let's beat them to death with a two-man game. Minnesota's pick and roll defense is phenomenal, and they have a lot of help. So I don't necessarily think that's going to have to be the answer. The slow starts are something that needs to get addressed, and Malone kind of brushing over it, I think, is problematic. There's just going to have to be a recognition of, hey, guys, we can't go down by double digits every single game. You cannot be digging out from 14 with 6 minutes to go. You can't have to Hurricane's point. You can't have 4 points with 6 minutes to go. That just can't happen. Jokic's turnovers. I don't feel like Nikola's turnovers were garden variety sloppiness. Those are things I want to credit the Wolves defense with. And Denver's honestly been a much better turnover team this season. So they made a lot of really good reads. They hit him with a bunch of one of the things that the Wolves did really well was they didn't hit him with stretches of double teams. It wasn't now we're going to send the double, and now we're playing you straight up. The Wolves were we're playing you straight up. We're playing you straight up. We're totally playing you. We're doubling. And that got Joker a couple of times. And they ran them from unexpected directions and angles where it wasn't, the Lakers were just every time down, putting up a giant sign. We're going to double you the second time that you dribble. And Joker's cool. So I'm going to dribble twice and then throw the pass that you make. So the Wolves did a lot of things with the turnovers. The starts have got to be better. And they got out clutch, which I will say, this is one of the risks if you're going to be leaning on we're the best clutch. We're so clutch. Look at us. Number 2 clutch offense, number 2 clutch defense. Variance is wild. It's wild. The shots didn't go down. Ants did. They set their defense. Rudy Gobert made 2 huge shots. What are you gonna do? But that's the thing is you can win some games with your clutchness, but you can't. I don't think you can win. You're not going to win 4 out of 7 out clutching this team, especially not after losing this one because you had a chance tonight. On the other side, I want to talk about adjustments for game 2, including there are things that they can do versus Anthony Edwards and about who it is that they need to really leverage in this series to get a win, even it up, and retake control of the series. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Nuggets. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard's not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or the team can pull out a win. Boy, that tracks tonight. That's when you dig deep. You lift your head up and you say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heist, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches in the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournament to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us. I tried to figure out after this game how Denver lost I always kind of look at the scoreboard. I know I can tell you they were really bad in the first quarter. I watched that matchups, all those kind of things. But I do think it's good to kind of look big picture. And it's Denver shot 52% on 2-pointers, 50% rather. They shot 42% from 3. They had more threes and more free throws than the Minnesota Timberwolves. So where did they lose this? And the answer is points off turnovers. They got absolutely murdered on points off turnovers because so many of them were live ball. Minnesota Timberwolves outscored them 26-18 in points off of turnovers. That's absolutely huge. There's only a 2 turnover difference in this game. And yet the Wolves were way more efficient in scoring off of those turnovers, which, I think, again, that kind of shows you the Denver's half-court offense, maybe half-court defense was okay at points, but they got really crossed up in a lot of ways, especially because of the turnovers, and that was a huge issue for them. So a couple of things for game 2. One, game 2, the Nuggets are going to win, and they're going to win comfortably. I'll just tell you that right now. Let me put that back up. If they come out with the same energy, if they go down double digits again, then they might lose. This is just not a team you can do that to, guys. I'm not talking to you, the fans, you know that, but I don't know why they don't get that. Again, you saw it tonight, Minnesota second, third quarter, right? Really good. Third quarter especially, they're really good. You just cannot go down double digits to this team. But history says the Nuggets are going to absolutely wipe the floor with them. That's what happens when the road team takes game 1, is game 2 is like a smash for the home team. Now, obviously, if they lose game 2, the series isn't over. It's pretty close to over. So hopefully that will light the necessary fire under Denver. Otherwise, they got much bigger problems. As far as the Ant stuff in game 2, I will say there's a couple of pretty easy things that they can do here. The Nuggets were sending, it's not a great phrase, but in terms of giggle factor, as I have a middle schooler, but they were sending what sometimes referred to as naked doubles, which is just, hey, we're going to just send another guy playing out in the open. We're just going to double team hard. Guy's just going to run away from his man and double team. The key, I think, is to wait until Ant engages and then stunt to help him, to help the primary defender. And that's got to come from MPJ, KCP, the wings, helping down on those drives. Force him to drive, help down on those drives, get him out of position, and then make sure your weak side down low defense is in position to contest. If Anthony Edwards throws the lob to Rudy Gobert, I think you got to live with it. I actually think Joker was way more concerned about the big man rolling than he should have been tonight. By the way, another thing on Joker, there were possessions where Nikola was literally not helping the ball handler because he was trying to keep an eye on Kyle Anderson screening. If Kyle Anderson scores, you live with it. You're just cool, do it again over and over and over again. the Nuggets are going to have to adapt a anybody but Ant. ABBA. Like, they're just going to have to do they have to adopt that kind of strategy. It's going to have to be Jaden McDaniels. Congratulations. You're going to get a bunch of wide open corner threes. If you knock them down, you can win this game, but you're going to have to do that on the road versus a tough closeout. Like, you do have to close out on him. I'm not saying leave him completely open. Don't dare him. But they're going to need to do that, and they're going to need to stunt down in order to force Ant to pass. Joker has got to get Rudy Gobert in foul trouble. He had 4 like midway in the 4th. Ant picked up fouls because he's not guarding Jokic. But on the ones where Rudy is on the floor solo and he's the primary defender on Nikola has to get him in foul trouble. If you take Gobert off the floor, you can engage the offense more, get to the rim and attack. Nas and Cat are not nearly as good at rim protectors. So you can attack the rim a lot more, get the kind of sequences that you want. But Rudy is a pressure point. And as long as he's allowed to be on the floor, and he's really good and he's gotten much better, but as long as he's allowed to be on the floor, the Wolves are in an advantageous position from all over the floor. So that's something that I think probably needs to be considered. Kane is back. I just want to comment on this. Kane's like, it's all Jokic's fault. If he's on a better team, we'd have a completely different Saturday now. Kane, they won the title, buddy. They won the title. We know they're good enough. It's okay. Sometimes Nikola doesn't play well. Rudy breaking up the finale oop was a meaningful play to me. It's just very rare that happens. There was like 31 seconds left in the half, and he broke that one up, and he broke another one up late. There's a question of, can the Wolves play better than this? Nothing the Wolves did here was unsustainable. I get that the Naz Reid hit one bank shot 3. Naz is a good shooter. Like, Naz hits threes. That's a thing he does. Just because this one happened to bank in doesn't mean that this was an outlier. This was not like a crazy outlier performance from Naz Reid. I don't look at this game and go like, oh man, the Wolves can play so much better than this too. This is a good game from them. It was a really good game from them. It was not a good game from Denver, mostly because I think Minnesota made it not a good game for them. But the Nuggets can play better. The Nuggets can shoot better. The Nuggets can generate better things, especially defensively. They can be a lot sharper. The Wolves can have more too. Like, Jaden McDaniels is not over. That's not the type of player that he is. NAW didn't hit threes. I thought he was going to. He had great looks from the corner. That was crazy. Steve Wynn says this, and I want to kind of come on it. Rudy's shot making in the 4 seemed out of character. Okay. Having watched a lot of Wolves this year, here's what I'll tell you. In Utah, so much of it was that they didn't trust him. Like, he would have opportunities, and they just wouldn't give him the ball. And it wasn't just Donovan. It was Mike Conley and Jordan Clarkson and Royce O'Neal, and it was everybody. Nobody trusted Rudy down there. And the Wolves trust Rudy a lot more. Like, they just trust him. They give him opportunities. Like, this Wolves team does not put him in a position where it's like, if you screw up, we're never giving you the ball again. It's not a good way for a guy to play basketball. Like, they give him opportunities for him to make plays. And if he doesn't make it, hey, that's all right, man. You're also on defense. And he made them. He made makeable shots. Like, Rudy Gobert made makeable shots tonight. It's not like he was shooting 3-pointers. So that, to me, I think is important to note here, that Rudy is not a 0 offensively with this Wolves team. He's not great, but he's not terrible. So, like, 3-0 card says Rudy is not supposed to pass, shoot, or dribble ideally. I don't agree with that. That's not how Minnesota has played this year. They don't use him as like a primary creator, but they have let Rudy have the ball. Like, this is not Utah. It's just not. In part because the leadership is different. There is not like again, in Utah it was, you better not screw up and we're never giving you the ball. In Minnesota, it's like, we really like it if you did something with it and you're not going to get a ton of touches. But like, if you're open, yeah, man, make a go of it. And so that's part of it. Part of this too, Malone or Jokic took 9 threes tonight. And I wasn't surprised at that because he likes to do that versus these teams that buckle up in the paint and really try and pack it down. he was 2 of 9, so it didn't work. Here's the key. If Jokic hits 4, or if he hits 5 of those, if he makes those shots, especially the ones with Karl Anthony Towns defending, that's what's really funny. Cat made an absolutely nightmarish closeout on Jamal Murray for a 4-point play. He stunted at Aaron Gordon. He went out at Aaron Gordon, who went around him, got deep, and then fed out for Jamal, who made a contested shot because of the rotations that were off. It allowed Jamal to get to his right. Like, Karl, for some reason, Cat closes out on those guys, which is like just it's terrible closeouts. And then with Joker, he was actually really disciplined. He got a hand up, but he didn't really overcommit, because if he overcommits, Joker pump fakes goes around him, and now he's got 4 on 3, and now they're screwed. Now they're doomed. So Joker trying to pull those guys out, if it doesn't hit the threes, that does take, like, then that's a huge win for Minnesota, because Minnesota's like, keep shooting them, man. We're not going to let you have the paint. I'm not going to let you have it. And that's how you get 11 of 25 night. It'll be interesting to see if Jokic just tries to overcome it. I will say the Nuggets record when Joker shoots more than 25 times is not good. It's not good. That's not Nuggets basketball. And you say, like, well, they can't get to Nuggets basketball without Jamal Murray being 100%. Maybe. But they're going to have to come up with some stuff. So Malone, especially, and the staff are going to have to get in the lab and come up with some things, because while effort, energy, and execution were huge problems in that second half, there were schematic things that Denver's going to have to do differently. And they're going to have to recognize, and really they're going to have to reckon with the fact that Jamal may just not be able to be that dude. If he is in game 2, great. Awesome. We're off to the races. The series is 1-1. We'll see what happens. But they're going to have to figure some of this stuff out. It's going to be a hard series. Everyone knew that coming in. Game 1 just proved how hard it's going to be. It ruled out the possibility of an easy series. All right. We'll see what happens going forward. Adam and I'll be back for game 2 tomorrow night. We'll get Adam's thoughts on adjustments for game 2, whether or not Peyton Watson should play more, all that and more. We'll join you on World's Finest on Sunday night. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again next time on Locked On Nuggets.